If more people come in, there's some sheets, but that'll be, they can just sign, and only if they're going to speak.
All right, sir.
Good evening. My name is Scott Cunningham. I am the retired Chief of Police of the Kernersville, North Carolina Police Department. I am also the leader of the team that will be assessing the Muscatine Police Department over the next several days. The other member of our assessment team is Lieutenant Amy Haley with the Columbus, Ohio Division of Police. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies Incorporated of Gainesville, Virginia, has authorized us to assess the Muscatine, Iowa Police Department, which is a candidate for reaccreditation. The Muscatine Police Department has voluntarily contracted with the Commission to work toward reaccreditation and thereby continue to demonstrate its professional excellence. When the agency originally entered this process, it received the Commission's Standards Manual, which contains 484 standards encompassing all facets of law enforcement management, operations, and support functions. The Commission has accredited this agency in the year 2000, 2003, 2006, 2009, 2012, and in 2015, each time determining it had demonstrated its compliance with all applicable standards. The agency's proofs of compliance are on file at police headquarters here in Muscatine. Since then, the agency has attempted to maintain those standards. Our responsibility as assessors for the Commission is to revisit the agency and verify that it has remained in compliance since it was last accredited. Brett Talkington, the Chief of Police of the Muscatine Police Department, has appointed Sergeant Vince Motto as the Accreditation Manager to oversee the reaccreditation process for this agency. In accordance with the Commission's public information policy, the agency's candidacy for reaccreditation has been publicized in this area, and the agency has arranged for this public hearing. The public hearing is intended to provide interested citizens or employees of the agency an opportunity to address this assessment team concerning the agency. Any comments you make will be considered by us as we review the agency and will also be reported back to the Commission. If you wish to supplement your verbal comments with a written statement or exhibits, you may present them to our team at the time you speak, or you may send them directly to the Commission where they will be reviewed when the agency is presented for reaccreditation at a formal Commission conference. You may mail your written remarks to the Commission at the following address: the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies Incorporated, 13575 Heathcote Boulevard, Suite 320, Gainesville, Virginia, 20155-6660. I'll also make that address available at the end of the meeting should anybody desire. At the beginning of the meeting, a sign-in sheet was made available so that those of you wishing to make comments can write your name and we can call you in the order. We ask that you limit your comments to 10 minutes, but with the crowd, I think we can listen to what people have to say within reason. If you wish to speak with any member of the Commission staff, you can reach them at the telephone number of 703-352-4225. The Commission staff representative for this agency is Tim Basinger. You may also email your comments to kalia@kalia.org, placing the name Muscatine PD in the subject line. I would like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and being broadcast live on YouTube. The recording will be forwarded to the Commission for review if necessary. Are there any questions before we get started? If not, I'll call your name of those that have signed up to speak, and if you would, please come on up to the podium and tell us what you think about the Muscatine Police Department. And the first person is Mr. Rick Bierman. Good evening, sir. How are you today? Good. Glad to hear you're doing all right, and I thank you for coming in and talking to us tonight.
I came to make a comment about a call I made, I believe it was last summer, not so sure about the exact date, but it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting in the back of the house where my TV is, and all of a sudden I heard a real loud, sharp crack on the side of my house. It was loud enough that I thought someone had fired a shot at my house. So I called 911 and told the lady what had happened and what I had heard. And she asked me if I would like an officer to come up, and I said, oh yeah. So I went ahead and moved to the front of the house and turned on a light. And after a few minutes, I saw two officers coming down the street. Evidently they had parked their car up the street and approached the house on foot, probably to, well, I don't know, I just felt it was probably gave them time to assess the situation or whatever. But anyway, they came to the front door and asked me what had happened, and I told them, and they were going to go down to the back of my house. I had left the light on back there so they could see, and they went down the south side of my house. The first officer that went down, he identified himself as a Muscatine police officer. Then he went on down the steps, and the second officer followed him. And they were back there for a few minutes, and then they came up on the west side of my house. And they talked to me. They told me that they had checked the yard, and they had looked at the house for damage, but they didn't see anything that was noticeable anyway. And so I apologized for bothering them for nothing, and then they left. And I went back in the house, and a few minutes later there was a knock on the door, and I answered it. It was the two officers come back, and they had their shift supervisor with them. And he asked me some questions about what I had heard, and then he went to the back of the house with the other two officers just to make a check, I guess, to see if he could see anything different, you know. And they came up the west side of the house again, and they stood there and explained that they hadn't seen anything, and he told me that there hadn't been any other call-ins from people hearing the shot or anything. So while they were talking to me, they were all three looking at my face pretty close. I kind of wondered if maybe they weren't checking to see if I had my wits about me. But anyway, they were all three very courteous, and they were very professional. They seemed very well trained. And that's my comment.
The next day, did you happen to find anything back there, any issues
I
or
went
anything?
back there several times looking. I've been shot at a lot when I was a kid in the Army, and I couldn't see anything.
I'm glad you qualified that. I was kind of, you were in the Army when you were shot at. I was
You're
wondering.
right, yeah. But I couldn't see anything. I even looked up on the roof to see if there was anything in the chimney. I don't know what it was. It must have been it had to have been a bird or something. But I've heard birds hit the house before, and it wasn't as sharp as that, so.
Well, I'm glad that you told us about this tonight. And you mentioned that you apologized to them for calling them out, but that's what they're there for.
Yeah, that's
And
what
it sounds
they
like that's what they checked it and even brought their supervisor to make sure they didn't miss anything.
Mhm. So
that's very good. And
I was
and
very
that's
impressed with the professionalism.
good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it turned out also that there was nothing there. Thank you for taking the time to tell us that and let us know about how you perceived them.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to make any comments to our assessment team? Okay, seeing none, we have advertised this. I've seen the announcements and everything posted. The agency did a very good job of posting it and letting people know. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it in the office with publications. That being said, this information is out there on YouTube and been put out live, so there's information and opportunities for people to send it in either to the office or to write it to our attention, and we'll certainly consider that. But being that there's no other people wanting to speak at this time, we'll go ahead and we'll close this public hearing. Thank you all very much for being here and for making this happen. Thank you.